Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt. This is the Toyota Corolla Cross. This replaced the CHR, as now this is the smallest SUV that you can get into in Toyota's lineup. And more specifically, this is the hybrid, which cannot be had in an HRV or the segment-leading Crosstrek, and it's quite good, but nothing is perfect. So today we're hitting the highlights, the best and the rest, starting with the rest. First thing we'll talk about is the ride, and I'll kind of preface this point by saying the ride here is objectively fine, especially considering the price point and the segment. However, there are a couple little things here that I don't love. First, the engine is a bit buzzy, as you might expect, but no more than abnormal for the segment. Second is the steering, which is possibly the lightest steering I've ever felt. You know, like when a child is born and then the parent is holding them like the next day or later that day, and then the newborn grabs one of the fingers with its whole hand. Well, that newborn has enough strength and power in that moment to do like donuts in this car, or to do a 360 in this thing. That's how light the steering is here. From there, the CVT is fine. It's smooth. The transition from gas to electric, you're really not going to notice, especially if you have music on. And the visibility here is pretty good. Ultimately, it's just the steering, a little springiness from the ride, and some road noise that isn't quite perfect here. And number two, the interior is kind of meh, which seems like a pretty obvious point considering this is the smallest and least expensive SUV that you can get from Toyota. The SE trim we have here is in the middle of the range for the hybrid, and its interior is kind of a mixed bag. It's an all-cloth upholstery, which actually isn't bad. It's black as base, but it's got blue and white contrasting accents, which are kind of cool and add some personality. Weirdly though, you do get leather on the steering wheel and the armrests in the doors, and even in the rear seats. You can get Softex on the XSE, and of course the bigger screen. But here we have optioned the $940 moonroof package. You won't get a panel roof here no matter how much money you spend, but I think that's fine for the segment. And then here's the weird thing. The dash and door cards are a hard, scratchy plastic, except for the passenger side of the dashboard, which is a soft touch. And finally, all of the windows are automatic up-down, which is a surprisingly luxe feature in something like this. So no, it's not super luxe and ritzy in here, but what did you expect at this price point? But there is some cool and surprisingly luxurious features going on here to add some personality that I like. And third and lastly, we're going to talk about price, and this is kind of a double-edged sword. The SE here starts at $29,290. With options, you're spending another $2,200. So as total tested here, we're about $32,865. Which starts to be a lot because the HRV starts at $24,100 and the top trim EXL starts at $27,650, which is less expensive by a couple grand versus where this thing starts. And then the Subaru Crosstrek starts at $25,000, and the top trim limited starts at about $30,000, almost $31,000. And then there's the Mazda, the CX-30. That starts at about $23,000, and Mazdas are generally more expensive because you have a nicer luxe interior. Now that being said, with the Mazda, if you go all the way up to the 2.5 Turbo Premium Plus, you're going to spend $35,000 or a bit more. So you can option that thing to the moon. But the Corolla Cross Hybrid here is generally more expensive than most of the competitors, but none of the others offer a hybrid. So it's an absolute value that I think you'll recoup pretty quickly with the fuel savings. But with that, there's a lot of good stuff going on here, so let's talk about those things. And just as we touched on, we have to talk about the hybrid. This is the only hybrid that you can get in this segment, and it's Toyota's awesome 5th generation hybrid technology that we've seen rolled out in the sexy new Prius. Under the hood here, you have a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder making 139 pound-feet of torque, plus you've got 151 pound-feet of electric torque, and your total horsepower number is 196. You get about 38 mpg combined, but I've been doing better than that all week. And in EV mode, you have, well, less than a 1 kilowatt-hour battery, so you're not going to go very fast or very far, but it is nice to have, and it kind of comes in nice and seamlessly. So here you have decent power, punch, and efficiency. Impressive. And number two, we're going to talk looks. Now, I think this thing looks pretty good, but interestingly, it has a totally different face for the hybrid than for the non-hybrid. And in my opinion, the hybrid looks cooler than the non-hybrid. You've got a bigger lower grille with Texas Longhorn inlays. And around the side, you have 17-inch kind of diamond cut two-tone wheels, which match the two-tone paint. The paint color here is called Blue Crush Metallic, and you get a jet black roof. You know, Blue Crush as in that surfing movie from 2002. And you have a flared shoulder and hip, which is weirdly aggressive for something like this. And of course you have an all-wheel drive little badge on the rear door. And there's a little Easter egg Corolla cross embossed in the top of your C/D pillar, which is pretty cool. And around back you have blacked out badges. Plus there's a bunch of Easter eggs going on around here, which we cover in our feature tour video. So make sure you check that out down in the description below. But now we're going to talk all-wheel drive, and this is nice because every Corolla Cross hybrid comes standard with E all-wheel drive. And what is E all-wheel drive actually? Well, it basically means there's just a small electric motor on the back axle that kicks in when needed, like at launch or loss of traction in wet conditions or snowy conditions. The thing about the rear motor is that it is only packing about 40 horsepower, so it's helpful, but if you're expecting to drift corners and run track times, you probably won't want to. But nevertheless, it is really cool that all the hybrids get all-wheel drive as standard. And number 4 is Pace. This is a small, cheap hybrid from Toyota, so it's got to be super slow and boring, right? Wrong. This thing it has some serious punch. It does 0 to 60 in close to 7 seconds. That's 3 seconds faster in this hybrid than you would get in the gas car. It feels nimble on its feet, at least at lower speeds and around town. This thing's got a bit of punch. And then on your steering wheel on the right hand side here, you have the controls for your Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. It is a very robust, very comprehensive system, especially at this price point. I will say the only issue that I had with it was the lane keep was very active and very much wanting to help, even when I didn't have cruise control on. Especially in the wet, I think it was misreading a couple lane lines, but I was in control of the car, so it wasn't a huge deal. However, when I was on cruise control on the highway, this is a beautiful system. It works really well, and you'll love to see it here on this Corolla Cross. And number 6, we're going to talk tech. And even though this is the smallest, the most affordable, and it's not even the top trim, you still get some pretty good kit in here. Donning your dash, you have an 8-inch screen, which you can upgrade to the 9-inch screen. But even here on the 8-inch, you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And you've got a wireless charger here. You have a fully digital cluster available on your XSE, but you still have a small TFT screen here. And this car is Wi-Fi enabled, and you've got Remote Connect, so you can control the car and certain things through Alexa or your phone, etc. And you've got a dual Bluetooth connection. I mean, honestly, beside the lack of heated seats in here, there's really nothing this car is really missing that I feel like I need. And then there's the back seats, which aren't huge as you'd expect, but even I, at 6'1", can fit back here with an inch or two of knee room in front of me without origamiing myself. There's also a couple cool features back here, like air vents that are standard, which again is impressive at this price point. You've also got dual USB-Cs, and weirdly there's no center cup holder that folds down, but you do have cup holders in your doors, and you have a single map pocket on the passenger side. So once again, for the size and segment, I'm impressed with this thing. And 8th and finally, I want to talk about trunk stuff. Now, objectively, this trunk it's not a bad size. It's not huge, but what did you expect? You can fold the rear seats 60/40. You've got grocery bag hangers back here. You have this weirdly perfect phone-sized cubby on one side, and then you have this deep chasm on the left-hand side. And that's because the floor here is raised up to make room for the less than 1 kilowatt-hour battery pack, because the hybrid needs to take up more space for the battery pack has to go somewhere. So you will get a little bit less space than you would in the gas, but still, it's not bad. Plus, if you want to tow anything, you get about 1,500 pounds of towing, which actually is pretty good. That's what you get in a CR-V. So that's the best and the rest of the Toyota Corolla Cross. It's got a bunch of spunk, a bunch of personality for not a huge amount of money, especially when you consider that you can get a hybrid here and you really can't anywhere else, depending on how you classify the Dodge Hornet. But I'm pretty positive on this thing. It's a great, practical, inexpensive little way to get around town. So well done, Toyota. Leave it down in the comments what you think of the Corolla Cross, and we'll see you in the next one.